everybody? Long time. It's been a minute. Just coming in here to kind of make our own separate episodes. We've been dealing with some technical issues, but we're getting that taken care of though. Happy to be back. Happy to be talking about MMA. We love talking about that, me and Zach, and we don't really seem to shut up about it. So, yeah. So let's get right into it. We have UFC 296 this Saturday. Am I forgetting the co-main event? Yeah, Leon Edwards taking on Colby Covington. And this is going to be a really good fight. We've seen Leon Edwards. He's, kind of gained that confidence as a champion. He's shown his first title defense against Kamaru Usman that he has the skills it takes to, fight against wrestlers, to be a great kickboxer. He has all the skills necessary to be the best version of himself. And then we have Colby, who's coming off a little bit of a layoff. His last fight was against Jorge Masvidal. Since then, he's dealt with the legal issues with all that stuff, and but Colby's not really a guy that time off doesn't really affect him. I mean, the last time he had fought before that was against Kamaru Usman, had been months before, and I with this fight I'm gonna go Colby, partially because I think it's funny as hell that you have a guy like Sean Strickland and Sean O'Malley as champ, and when it comes to the UFC PR team, they're probably gonna really dislike having somebody like Colby as champ. But I think it's all fun and games. But the reason why I think it's gonna be Colby though is just I think his wrestling is gonna really win him the fight. I think that's really what's gonna do him the most. I think going into things is just I know that Leon's the better striker, and that Colby's the better wrestler. But somebody like Colby, he's done very well against guys who are the better striker. Look what he did to Jorge Masvidal. Completely shut down Jorge's whole game plan for 5 rounds. I think the way Colby fights is the way that it's similar to Kamaru Usman, very high pressure, and that's what gave in the second fight. That's what gave Leon so many issues in that second fight. I know that Leon did win by a head kick in the last minute of that fight, but he was losing that whole fight until then. Well, I think he won the first round. I personally think he won that first round, and I never saw the official judges' scorecards, but I think Colby has pretty much like that pressure wrestling is going to be it. I think his wrestling and his cardio is going to be the big factor in that. Leon has pretty good conditioning, but I don't think it's as good as Colby's. Colby's has a third lung. And I mean, we'll see how things play out though. I really don't exactly know what's going to happen with the whole fight, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great one. If Leon wins, I'll be more than happy if he wins. If Colby wins, I'll be happy if he wins, because I don't know what Colby does after this if he loses. Where does he go from this? So people are saying he should fight Dustin Poirier. I've never thought that fight made sense. Dustin Poirier's a lightweight. He's a lightweight. I mean, even though I know he does walk around 185, he walks around pretty big for a lightweight. But I also think Dustin Poirier just likes to eat. But with Leon, I mean, it kind of puts him back in the mix. I don't know what happens with the title picture after this fight. We're gonna have to wait and see. There are some welterweights fighting on this card that could probably possibly lead to the title fight. We'll get more into that in just a bit. But I'm going to lock in Colby by decision, though. And so, for the co-main event, you got Alejandro Pantoja taking on... he's taking on Brandon Royval. And this is a rematch. And this was... I mean, these are two very high-volume fighters. Alejandro is shown that he has striking, he has grappling. His jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. I mean, the way that he just bum rushes these guys. And they don't know what to do because his pressure, and they're just so thrown off by how quick he is. But Brandon Royval's a dog, man. And I think what's gonna get him this fight is gonna be the cardio. I'm gonna go Brandon Royval. I don't know how he gets it done, but I mean it's hard to say just because we've seen Pantoja. He got the first win by his submission, I believe. I think it was a rear naked choke. And correct me if I'm wrong. I forgot to look a little bit into this card. I've been pretty busy this week, but it's I do know it's a rematch though. But I do think that Royval, his conditioning, I think he's kind of shown that he is top level, and I think that's really going to separate with him, making the changes, because we've seen Pantoja, he's been kind of the same fighter since that fight, and it was enough to win him the title, which just shows how next level he is. But when you become champion, do you really extend yourself further out? Do you really take yourself to another level? I heard somebody say the other day is like whenever you become champion, you become 30% better. And so I hope he does come in 30% better. I expect this fight to be a really great fight, a really great showcase for the flyweight division as well. I mean, there's so many tough guys in that top 5 division, in the top 10 really. I mean, I could probably, it's crazy now because I remember when they first came in with this weight class, and was Demetrius Johnson, let's see, Ian McCall. I'm trying to remember the other guy's name, and Joseph Benavidez. But Joseph Benavidez and him fought. I remember that it was like a title eliminator. They did like a small tournament to see who was going to be crowned the inaugural champion. And so you take that. This was in the 2010s, and now we're in the 2020s, and just how some of these guys have became household names. There's a little bit of relevancy in that weight class, but I think with Royval, though, I think his conditioning, as long as he has really improved his submission defense, his conditioning is going to be it. I think that was one of Pantoja's like downfalls in that fight against Moreno. It was a very, very close fight, but his downfall was the fact that he just wasn't as conditioned. You could tell he was exhausted. It was a dogfight, and Royval every time he fights, I mean, it's a dogfight, it's in your face pressure style, and it's kind of crazy to see considering how long he is for that weight class. You see him in there with other guys, even though he does weigh 125. He's pretty lanky for a 125er, but but that's really what the edge I'm giving him, though, and that's why I feel like he might take. It's a very close fight, though. I mean, they're both really good, high level competitors. One's a champion for a reason, you know. And so next fight, the mid card, which I don't think is a mid card slump at all, depending on who you ask, though. It's going to be Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Stephen Thompson. This is a really, really great fight. I like this fight just because I know Stephen Thompson's potential regardless of how old he is now. I think he's definitely showing that he still has it, you know. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But with Shavkat Rakhmonov, man, the dude is a killer. The dude is scary as hell. Like, I see why it took him a little while to get a fight, and there's a reason why, you know. I mean, the guy can strike, he can wrestle. His last fight against Jeff Neal, it was kind of a hard fight because for him it was a hard fight because I don't know exactly why, but he just never really went to wrestling with Jeff Neal, and they just stood there and striked with the guy. He was just throwing hands with him, and Jeff Neal has great boxing. If you ever watched the way he moves and stuff like that, it's very traditional, and he's able to translate traditional boxing into MMA. And I think, I mean, I've heard some great things about Jeff Neal as well, but I've been a fan of his since the Mike Perry days. So when I saw Shavkat win over this guy, he choked him out cold with a standing rear naked. It's just like, man, dude. But also, that wasn't a healthy Jeff Neal in that fight, so that's something to consider as well. Not making excuses for that, but you really have to consider those minor details when you're, you know, it's always about the small details, regardless if you're fighting or if you're watching. If you notice the small details, it just makes a difference. Now with Stephen Thompson, I know he's I believe he's in the early 40s now, and I know a lot of people are counting him out because he doesn't do that well against wrestlers. Some of his recent losses are against guys like Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad, and all those guys, they was control him most of the time. But it's a crazy thing to say, though. Stephen Thompson, for being a Taekwondo karate fighter, he's never lost by submission, which is a crazy thing to say considering, like, you know, his defense is really just get back to the feet. He doesn't show jiu-jitsu. He has one submission win back when he first started fighting around the early 2010s, and so you haven't seen really much of that kind of game that he can bring in. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. If Stephen Thompson wins, I see it by decision. If Shavkat Rakhmonov wins, it's gonna be by just straight maul. Like, he's gonna maul him. You know, it's just, I don't see it being a close fight. It's gonna be, if it is a close fight, it's gonna be Stephen Thompson winning. He knows how to play the long game. He's done this for years. While I think if Shavkat wins, it's gonna be a very one-sided fight. But I can't pick a winner just because, I don't know, something in my heart tells me I can't pick one because I would like to see Stephen Thompson fight for a title again. But I mean, tune in Saturday. That's all we can do is just wait and see. Let's see, the second fight of that night is gonna be Tony Ferguson taking on Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. I like Paddy the Baddy. I'm not super fond of him after the which one was this? What's his name? Jared Gordon. I always want to say Gordon Ryan. So the Jared Gordon fight happened, and I mean, I don't know, man. I think that dude really showed his ass that fight. I mean, he thinks it was such a one-sided fight, which we all know it wasn't. To have such a brash attitude, but about that, it's just like, man. But Tony Ferguson, I mean, he's on a 6-fight losing streak. He's been knocked out. He's been choked out. I mean, he's been beat up from bell to bell between a lot of those. So, you know, the first 3 losses of that was just him getting beat. He got beat up by Justin Gaethje. He got beat up by Charles Oliveira. Then he fought Beneil Dariush. Got beat up in that one. Knocked out by Michael Chandler. Gets choked out by Nate Diaz by guillotine, which it was a short notice fight. It's hard to hold him accountable for a weight class that he's not used to as well. And then I was just really happy they fought Nate Diaz, not Jiling Liang in that fight, because Leach would have murdered that guy. Like, we probably would have saw. I mean, there probably would have been some caution tape up. It's a great thing they didn't fight. I know that's an extreme way to put that, but I mean, Tony Ferguson is no longer a top 15 guy. I think it's, and then, oh yeah, also to mention, he fought Bobby Green, which, I mean, you gotta look at that fight though. He was doing pretty well in that fight. It's not like he was doing well in that fight until the eye poke happened, and that guy's too tough for his own good. And I say that because, like, if he gets poked in the eye and he can't see out of it, he's just gonna ignore it and keep going. He's gonna keep fighting. That's just his attitude, and that's what's got him to his 12 fight unbeaten streak. You know, I mean, it's just that attitude of just not stopping. And with that, it's just you see him get beat up, but he was looking great until the eye poke happened. I think with Bobby Green, I mean, I have my own kind of reservations on the way what happens in his fights, because there's always seemed to be some type of foul, especially if it's not going his way. But that's a conspiracy theory, so let's not get too much into that. Now with Paddy the Baddy, I mean, the guy, he's great everywhere, really. He has good submissions. He has pretty decent stand-up. He keeps his hands down because apparently if you're a scouser, you don't get knocked out, but I don't fully believe that. I think anybody can get knocked out at any point in time. But, I mean, it's entertaining as hell, though, let's be honest. But I think, I don't know, man. I don't know how this one goes because so with some of Paddy the Baddy's fights, we've seen him get cracked a lot. We've seen him get hit. And we've seen him, it's like when it comes to the up-and-comers as well, and that's exactly what it's going to be. He's in one of the hardest, I mean, you can argue it's the hardest weight class with the lightweight division in the UFC. You can make the argument for it. I mean, but you also say the same for bantamweight, but I'd have to say lightweight. I think I've said bantamweight before, but I think with seeing how bantamweight's going, it's like, okay, you know what, this is actually a lot harder than you realize. It's like this weight class is a lot harder. But I think with the the Paddy fight, I think Tony can catch him. I really think he can. I think he can catch him if he goes in there and shows prime Tony Ferguson. I don't know much about what's going on with him. He was training David Goggins, training himself to exhaustion. I mean, I don't know, man, but I've said it before. I said it after I think I said it after the Nate Diaz fight when he was supposed to fight Leach. I was like, Tony Ferguson just needs to retire. Like, he needs to stop doing this to his body. I mean, he was great and should have been champion at one point, but he wasn't. And so I just think it's time for him to move on. But he loves what he does, and you can't really tell another grown man what to do unless you're his boss, I guess. Which I wish his boss would, take a step up and just tell him, hey, you know what? I'm gonna release you from your contract. What you do from here is your choice. But I think Ferguson catches him. And if he doesn't, I mean, it's going to be Paddy catching him. I think the amount of damage he's taken his past 6 fights has left him real susceptible to stuff like that. But if he can, I mean, it's all going to depend on who catches who first. I think it can kind of go either way, which is like, I don't know if that's a compliment towards Paddy, though, because Paddy wins, he beat up an old Tony Ferguson. If he loses, you just lost to an old Tony Ferguson. This is a lose-lose fight for him. Considering his stardom and his the amount of platform he has, I'm surprised he even took this fight. But I mean, he's coming off an injury. It's probably not as tough as a fight because I mean he's always gonna have tough fights. People are always going to see him fight all types of guys. I mean, you can name almost anybody in top 10, and somebody somewhere is gonna say, "Oh man, Paddy and Dustin Poirier would be a great fight." I don't think it would be. I think that'd be a very one-sided fight, but somebody somewhere is going to want to see that. So I think this is a really great warm-up fight for him, but I think it's all going to be about who catches who first. So we'll just have to wait and see. But the card opener got canceled. Ian Gary contracted the flu, then it became pneumonia. So him and Vicente Luque is off. So hopefully he makes a full recovery. The other stuff going on in his life right now, I don't know if it had anything to do to affect that, but I guess I don't know. I just hope he's all right, and because I was really looking forward to that fight with him and Luque. So they bumped up the co-main headline. Not the co-main, excuse me, the prelim headliner, which was Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell's taking this on short notice, and that's a tough fight to take on short notice, dude. Josh Emmett is a very good fighter. I mean, I always wanted to see him fight for a title, but I don't think he does fight for a title anymore, considering his last couple losses. He lost to Yair, and then he lost to Ilya Taporia. And Josh Emmett has good wrestling defense, but also Bryce, man, I mean, he's a savage. He's a beast. I know that he suffered a loss, and then he came back and he got a win against Dan Ige, and I think Bryce's biggest hole is where Josh Emmett's been known to like put guys to sleep, to stiff out, dude. And I think that's what's gonna if Josh can kind of negate the wrestling and the grappling that Bryce is gonna put on, handle the pressure, then he does very well. But Bryce is also taking that on a short notice. I don't know what his gas tank is like. I don't know how hard he trains outside of that. So it's kind of hard, man. I would love to see this fight on a full camp for sure. But I'm gonna go to Josh Emmett, and I think he's gonna knock him out. I mean, I think everything kind of plays into his favor to get the knockout. I mean, you got a guy who probably wasn't ready to take a short notice fight. I don't know if they're gonna do this at featherweight or what, but Bryce Mitchell seems like a workhorse, so I don't think he's coming in off the couch either. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on this stuff, man. Let me know what some fights that you would like to hear us talk about, or shoot us a message on our Instagram at Devin the Bear Podcast, and we can give you our thoughts there. Comment down below. Let us know your just keep coming back. Give us some stuff to talk about. And but yeah, let us know your thoughts on the fights. We're gonna post our picks probably this Saturday, so look out for that. Let us know your picks, thoughts, opinions, what you like, what you don't like. We want to hear all of it. And once we get all of our technical difficulties situated, we'll be back full-fledged, making podcasts, having video, all that good stuff. So appreciate you for watching, guys.